Hello everybody, welcome back to the workbench. Subject of today's video is this Grand Trunk Western boxcar, which I'm in the process of weathering. As you can see, it's still got the masking tape on the roof, but which I have already added the graffiti to, with the intention of the weathering kind of going over the top of this and representing slightly older graffiti. This is car number 598069. It's an Atlas model. The graffiti is actually copied from a car number 598068. I may renumber this down to that at some point. So the purpose of this video is I thought it might be useful to show how I've templated the graffiti from the prototype to get it accurate in, or reasonably accurate in, dimensions and location. I've used two different techniques to do the templates on this. The first, on side, what I'm referring to as side one, I sprayed an off-white background to the graffiti and then filled in sort of the black and the colour around it on both sides of this. So the template on this side was just to allow me to airbrush the shape in the background in the white, and then I used that as the basis for drawing in the actual graffiti itself on top of the white. Then on side two, this was a little more complicated because the pattern on this graffiti was clearly a little bit more complicated. So for this side, I've produced a template that I could draw around to get each of the individual elements drawn onto the side of the car, again as accurately as I could. And that's used a slightly different technique from how I worked on the other side. So this is just a quick brief video to show how I produced the masking and the templates to add the graffiti to the car. I'll pop a picture up showing, or a couple of pictures showing the prototype car. It's really useful now that railroadarchive.net is back up and running. It's given access. It was down for a while, which is why a lot of the weathering that I've done on cars recently has been freelance, or at least based on prototypes but on different cars. Now that the website's back up and running, it's very easy to find your specific car number if there's photos of it, and to be able to actually base the weathering and graffiti on the prototype, which is how I'm going to be working going forward. I'm not going to be, this is probably the last one that is not accurate graffiti for the actual car number itself. I'll add a link to railroadarchive.net in the description of the video. Absolutely crucial source of information that I couldn't work without. And I'll go onto the computer and show you how I've produced these templates. Okay, so for this exercise I've moved over to my tablet. I'm using the Snapseed app to edit the photographs. I don't have Photoshop or anything similar on my computer. This is a particularly easy app to use. It's free to download, and it has the various features on it that I needed for editing these images. So first things first, going into my files, and I'm opening the pictures of the car in question, 598068, on the Railroad Picture Archive app. So this is the car that we're working on. You can see side 2 in the picture here. And what I will do is take a download of that image and save it into my folder that I'm saving all the images of this car into. So with the image downloaded, we can then edit that image. We'll pop it into, this is it going now into Snapseed. As you can see, I've got a few images of the car there in the folder. And with it in the Snapseed app, we can now use the editing tools on the right here The first thing I'm going to do is crop the picture down so that we've mostly got just the outline of the car. Doesn't matter particularly at the moment to get it particularly accurate, but it's just easier to work with it a slightly closer cropped view, take some of the waste around the edges. So with that done, again, we can use the editing tools to tilt the image to get it square. We need this so it's almost like a straight side on the picture of the car. Really useful tool, this. Obviously the angle it's taken at is not straight, but using this tool we can really get it squared up. I'll do it fairly quickly for the demonstration of this video, but if you really take your time you can actually get really quite an accurate straight on view, providing the image is of a good enough quality, which this one is. You see I haven't got that quite straight, but we can sort that out later. We now go to the rotate function. We'll just square it up to make sure it's all square in the frame. Okay, with that done, we'll now go to the perspective view and we can just manipulate the image a bit further. Again, because of the perspective that the original photo was taken from, it's not quite square. And again, I haven't got it quite right here, but I'd normally spend a bit of time doing this. So again, I'll crop it down to much closer, just the side of the car, take away some of the waste around the edge again. I'm going to leave a bit around the edge just as reference. And like I say, again, I haven't got it quite square there, but for the one that I've actually done, I'd normally spend a bit more time and get this much more accurate. So we can now save that image. And that's now ready to use, excuse me, ready to use on our project. Okay, so we've got our image saved into the appropriate folder on the desktop. So we'll open that up. And just check this isn't quite square. With the one that this is just the example with the one that I've used for the actual model. I spent quite a lot of time adjusting the settings, but you probably don't want to watch me doing that. So that's the image, which we'll copy. And then with a blank document open in Word, we'll paste it into there. Now I've got this page layout set at landscape. I know that the image is going to be too wide to print on a portrait setting, and it's currently set at 100% zoom and print layout. So on the screen, this is exactly an A4 size sheet, and obviously if your standard paper is a different size, you'll get it 100% of that size. So I know that whatever I'm measuring on the screen here is the size it's going to be when it prints out on the paper. Now the width of the boxcar from end to end is 118 millimeters. Now you're not going to be able to see me adjusting this because I'm actually holding the ruler on the screen, and I can adjust this. So the end to end of the boxcar, that's now exactly 118 millimeters from this end here to the end of the boxcar there, ignoring all the extra bits around the outside. We're just interested in end to end. And I also know that from the top rail there to the base of the side at the ends is 41 millimeters. So again, we can adjust the size of the image to 41 millimeters. Again, I'm just holding the ruler against the screen. It's a quick and easy way of doing it. I've got TurboCAD on here. I probably could have dropped the image into there, cut it and cropped it, and then got it to exactly the right size. But I find doing it this way in Word is pretty simple. So that is now 41 millimeters from the top of the rail there to the bottom of the side there, and 118 from end to end. So that's what we need. We should now, if I print that out, lay it on the side of the car, all the bracings on the outside should match up with what's on the model. And I've found that doing it this way, I can get a pretty accurate template from this. I've done it a few times this way and it works really well. So that's our template made. We'll now print out a couple of these onto the A4 to use as our templates. Now the other thing I did was I've sort of reverse cut this image as well. So once I'd got this one cut, because on the other side I've used the airbrush to put the background on for the graffiti, I've reversed the image, or sorry, mirrored the image again so that I could use it to cut the masking for the white on the background, and I'll show you how I did that in a minute. But basically I've cut this back into Snapseed, mirrored it, and then popped it back onto the Word document and then printed them out. So I've got both a correct away image and a mirrored image that I can use for the masking. So I'll go back to the workbench now and show you how the masking process has worked. I'll print this out onto photo paper, which is flexible but stiff enough to keep a solid template for marking out the images. Okay, I'll try not to get in front of the camera too much here. We've got our images downloaded and saved, and I've printed them out. First one in colour. This is side 2, and this is printed on Xerox photo paper, just standard photo paper, 180 grams per metre squared photo paper for side 2, and that's in colour. And then for side 1, I've just printed that in black and white, and this is just on normal A4 paper, photocopier paper. The reason for that is the way this is going to work. So we'll cover side 1 first. Now side 1 has got these larger text graffiti, and this is all on a white or an off-white background. So what I'm going to do for this is, and the way I worked it, I airbrushed the background on first, and then I've drawn so that that's all white, and then I've just drawn the black over the top to keep the background, and then I've added a bit of colour in where it is around the edges with this sort of beige, pinky beige colour around the edge. So for this side, what I want to do is just airbrush, mask and airbrush the outside shape. Same this side, I airbrushed the straight lines, and then I drew the lines inside up to the lines where they were airbrushed on. So in order to achieve that, I've masked off the top half of the boxcar. Anywhere where there's no paint obviously is masked, and then the airbrush goes on there. So what I've used for that is AK excuse me, AK interactive airbrush masking film. It is quite expensive, you only get 2 sheets in a pack, but if it's used economically you can get quite a bit out of it. So, and that's why I've printed the mirrored version of the side of the car that we're going to use for the template, because what we need to do, always be prepared. I should have opened this pack first. So what we're going to do, the film, obviously this is the shiny side is the outside, and then it sticks on with the back. So in order to have the image the correct way round, we need to have the reverse of the drawing on the back, hence printing this in reverse. So what I've done, and this doesn't need to be particularly precise, again I'm conscious that I want to use as little of the masking film as I can, because it's quite expensive. So if we can limit the amount we use, that would be good. And I've cut this. Having said that, I did want a datum point at the top here, so what I did, and I've marked, obviously this one's already done, but I cut the template at the top of the boxcar and at the end, so we've got a square edge there. So once I've got the masking film cut, it'll fit on at the top and at the end, and I know I've got the mask in the right place then. So that was that. Then it's just a simple case of, with I used Pritt stick, but whatever your glue of choice is, I would suggest something like Pritt. It doesn't need to be particularly well stuck on there, but it does need to be flat and smooth. So a Pritt stick or a glue stick is ideal for that. No lumps and bumps. Once it's on, it's on. So stuck that on there, and then I've cut around the edge. I'm not going to do it now because I don't want to waste this film, but I've then cut around the outside of the white line, following that around the outside. Once I've got that cut out, the masking film can then stick over onto the car, and then I mask the rest of the car with frog tape. And then I've airbrushed in the white there, which gave the outline. I'll pop a picture of that up on the screen now. So I airbrushed that using Vallejo, and that is number 71.279, which is called Insignia White. It's a slightly off-white. It looks slightly greyish in the bottom, but it looks white. But once I got it sprayed on, particularly next to the white markings on the boxcar itself, it really showed up that it wasn't white. It's ideal for this. I think white would have been far too bright. So, and I did the same this side, and then with the masking film just tacked on. Now the good thing with the masking film for this purpose, because of the bracing on the side of the car, I didn't worry too much about getting it stuck on really tightly, and you get a little bit of overspray just runs underneath the film, which just softens the edge, and I think produced a really nice edge, particularly on this side. It's just made a nice little soft edge, so that's really good. I will point out I did make a mistake, because certainly with the Ishiban lettering here, I followed the edge of the white area in order to get the text on as per the car. Now unfortunately I did the same with space, and I don't know why, because I had the picture and I've been referring to the pictures, but I followed too closely the edge of the white, so the P and the A have gone a little bit high up. They should have been straight across the top. Not the end of the world. Looks okay on the car, but it's just not quite 100% with that. So that's how I did that. And I'll move on to side 2, which is quite a bit more complicated in terms of the graffiti that it's got on it. It's ending this side, and I'm not actually sure what this says, or if it says anything. Might be HO with an R at the end. It's really hard to tell. This is definitely ending, which I worked out as I was drawing it. Sometimes if you draw the graffiti, you can work out what it says. So this is a little bit more sort of maybe what you might call traditional templating, because for this, what I did, and again I'll just cut out just to make it a bit easier to work, get rid of the paper on the outside that we don't need. Obviously the sensible thing to do would be to print more than just one thing per sheet, but for the purpose of this, that's what I've done. Okay, so I've got the template cut out and the side of the car cut out. What I should have done was shown you how this fits on the side of the car. This is the one that I did, I've done for the rest of the video. I should have printed the one that I actually used for doing this, because it fits on 100% exactly the right size, the same size as the outside of the car. But for this, that's fine. So what I did with this, a little bit different, because this, and this is why I've used the photo paper, it's a bit stiffer, and I made this into literally a template. So I cut out, initially I printed off 2 or 3 of these, and for the first one I cut out the outline of the writing all the way around, got rid of the writing, and then putting that on the side of the car, I then drew with a pencil round the outside of the text, which then gave me the limits of where the writing was going to come to. Now I could have then probably freehanded the text in, but what I decided to do, because this is quite good as a template, so what I did was just cut round. I haven't worried about being too detailed on this, because you can freehand a lot of this back in, but what I did, I cut around the some of the gaps between the text, or in places I cut the text itself out of the whole so that I could use the resulting whole as a template. So with those two ways of doing it, you can either cut the gaps and then draw around the inside of the gaps. It's quite difficult to work out because of the complicated nature of the drawing. You need to kind of work it out how you're going to do as you go along. So here I've cut out the gap, and I would do the same under there and up around here, and then I popped that on the side of the car, and then I drew round using the what's left of the card as a template, and that gave me the lines in there. And I kept it fairly rough. There's a lot of detail drawing in there, you'll see. It says ending, so I didn't bother with all this detail. I've then freehanded that in on once I've put the painting on the actual car. I've drawn in the extra little spikes and bits freehand. It's not 100% perfect, but it certainly gives the impression of being what it is. Like that. Well, I should say, I haven't actually finished weathering the car yet. Fades on, but I need to put some and a bit of darkening around the bracing, but I need to get this fully weathered. But I wanted to get this on first, so the weathering can go over the top and just dull it down a bit. It is a bit bright at the moment, and the paint I've used is a little bit glossy in places. So, but once it's weathered, that'll weather that down. And then I did the same again on this side. Again, once it's weathered down, hopefully it'll just make it a bit more, just tone it down a little bit. It's a bit bright there, a few shadows on it. But for this one, again, I cut initially an outside piece. I did this in a few different parts because the first half and the second half is kind of separate, so I worked that. I haven't quite finished painting in this graffiti yet. It's still a work in progress. I'll get that done over the next couple of days, and again, once it's weathered down, I think the green I can get down to a much darker finish once it's done. Okay, I hope that's shown the process of how I did that. It is pretty simple. It's a it's a technique. I'm presuming other people do the same. That's just the way that I've worked out how to do it, and that's it's worked pretty well for this car. I've got a couple of the cars in process at the moment where I'm just drawing by hand. So in particular, this rail box car, I've just I'm in the process of sketching it in at the moment. This is quite good. I've got a very good photo of this one, and it's the correct, as I said earlier in the video, this is the correct number. Found this car on railroadpicturearchive.net. Really nice side-on picture, and from the bracing and things you can work out fairly simply where the lines are. And again, this one I'm hand drawing, and then I'll weather over the top to just fade the graffiti down a bit. Okay, so I hope that's helpful, how to template your graffiti for your car. One other slight note on graffiti that I would say, all of this comes down to the bottom of the car. One of the things, I'm no I'm no modelling snob, I hope. Love the hobby and I love everyone is doing their own thing, which is great. But one thing that does kind of, I do notice, is when graffiti is put on the side of a car and it doesn't come down to the bottom, because when you're putting graffiti on, you have to remember that most of this is done by someone standing next to the car. So the majority of graffiti will just come up as high as a person can reach. For the stuff like this will be probably as high as the artist could go when they've done this. It was a mistake I made, and I think I corrected it a bit, but I did a hopper and I put a picture of Eeyore on the side, and I did it a little bit too high up, and it just didn't look quite right. And obviously people who go prepared, certainly the people that do the full murals and the full car side, go prepared with ladders and such like, and they can do the whole car. But for a lot more of the impromptu stuff, it'll only come to probably about a third of the way up the side of the car, but it will come all the way down to the bottom. So particularly with deco graffiti, you sometimes find it sort of in the middle of the car up here, which wouldn't be how it's done. But you know, if you like it and that's how you want it, it's absolutely fine. There's no issue with that. But and I did a couple like that when I first started, and I wasn't happy. I couldn't see what was wrong with it, and then I realised needs to come right to the bottom of the car. Obviously there's exceptions that prove that rule, but no, that's just a little observation from me. Okay, I hope that was of interest, and I will see you in the next video.